Oh, good morning, lovely people. So good to see you again and to be back with you and with your pastor, who is, yay. Kim and I always love being with you. My wife Kim is with me today, and we are grateful for who you are as a church. Now, most of you know the story of Aladdin. Kim got me to watch the 2019 movie a few weeks ago, and presto, sermon material. I love when that happens, don't you? Right? So Will Smith plays the genie who emerges from the lamp offering Aladdin what? 3 wishes, right? And suddenly, Aladdin is faced with the question that all of us have probably entertained in one form or another at one time or another, right? And that is, if you could have anything you wanted, anything in the world, what would you ask for? Money? Success? Security? Power? Would you want to be admired, respected, remembered? Or how about this? Recognized? Right? That question lies at the heart of the movie, and the dark character in the story is someone named Jafar. Right? He plays second fiddle to the Sultan, and it grates on him every moment, right? So he knows what he wants. He wants to rise above everyone else, and so his first wish is to become the Sultan. But that's not enough. Next, he wants to become the most powerful sorcerer in the world. But then he realizes that there is one more powerful than even he, and that is the genie himself. And so he uses his third wish to become the genie. The wish is granted. Jafar at last possesses unimaginable power. But then he discovers the truth too late. And that is, a genie may have extraordinary power, but he is also bound to the lamp, right? The man who wanted to rise above everyone else ends up confined. He gets the power and the glory he wanted, and he loses his freedom. His desire to be greater than everyone else becomes his prison. Aladdin makes a different choice. He uses his final wish to set the Will Smith genie free. Look at the contrast. Jafar uses his wish to exalt himself. Aladdin uses his wish to liberate someone else, right? One man asks, how great can I become? The other finally asks, whom can I serve? In today's first reading from 1 Kings, God comes to Solomon in a dream and says, ask what I should give you. This is Solomon's Aladdin moment, you might say, except that God asks for only one wish. And Solomon could ask for a long life, for riches, or for revenge on his enemies. God even lists these afterwards as maybe the most expected answers. But Solomon won't ask for anything that will benefit him alone. He asks for keen perception, for good judgment, for able discernment. Now, most of us, when we first heard this story when we were kids, probably remember that what Solomon actually asked for was what? Wisdom. Well, the Hebrew word for wisdom means an understanding mind. Literally, a listening heart. What Solomon wants is to be able to tell good from evil. And I think we would all agree with God that he chose well. He is already wise beyond his years by making this his desire. So here's another way of saying it. Solomon doesn't ask to be recognized. He asks for the ability to recognize. It would be easy, I think, at this moment to make the application here to what kind of national leaders we should want. And that would not be wrong. I mean, I think Christians who are formed by stories like this one should look for leaders who would not seek power for the sake of personal enrichment or for recognition, and certainly not to get back at their enemies. It's just in the Bible. Now, we've seen this movie play out before in real life, and it never ends well. And yet we never seem to learn. We should want leaders who want an understanding mind and a listening heart, right? Leaders with the gift of recognition rather than the thirst for it. Well, we could go there, but the force of biblical interpretation, I would say, should fall first and foremost on the people of God themselves. It's the church that should be wrestling with this question. What do we most want? And when I say the church, I don't just mean Carrie as the Solomon figure of the church, right? Best I can tell, she is Solomonic enough already in being wise beyond her years, right? And possessing an understanding mind and a listening heart. Having been with you through some, yes, unsteady seasons in recent years, I celebrate with you now that you have that kind of pastor, right? But Baptists especially are supposed to bear the weight of discipleship equally in the church. I know you've been studying how better to claim the every member a minister motto, right? As a way of exercising the priesthood of all believers, which means that you can't ask Pastor Carrie to do what you are not yourself willing to do. Or better, to want what you will not want. We have to, as the church, help one another to discipline our desires. The question of our time for the church might just be this: do we want the right thing? Do we want understanding minds and listening hearts? Or do we want power and glory? Do we want to be noticed or to notice? Do we want to be recognized or to recognize? This may be the crucial matter. Too many Christians today, it seems, need validation from the world that we are right. We think that if we can gain control of government and get our way in the state houses and in the courthouses, we will have won. Everyone will finally see our greatness. But this is the tricky part, isn't it? What will we have won? When you start out like Jafar, seeking glory for yourself, even if you think that what you're really doing is seeking the glory of God, you end up a prisoner to your own power. The church that seeks to serve itself always ends up turning on itself and becoming a slave to its own success. Whatever we gain, it will never be enough. We will never be satisfied. But what if our satisfaction isn't found in success or notoriety? What if it is found in acquiring the wisdom to know what to want, to see what is good, and to recognize how God is at work in the world? This is where Jesus comes in with his many short parables from which we read in Matthew's gospel. The kingdom of heaven is like. That is, the way God is present and working in the world is like this. Like a mustard seed so small it seems insignificant, yet it brings forth a mustard tree that provides a home for birds to nest in. Like a woman who folds in yeast with the flour and watches as it leavens the whole loaf. God, in other words, is powerfully present in ways we often overlook and don't expect. Jesus is saying that we need eyes to look onto the inside of things. Eyes to see the seed that gives rise to the tree. Eyes to see the yeast that gives leaven to the loaf. And then he turns to value. We should be like the man who finds a treasure in a field and then reburies it and goes and buys the field. Or like the merchant who discovers this pearl of great price and sacrifices everything for it. Or like a net that catches all kinds of fish indiscriminately. Notice here in this troubling little parable that the church is the net, right? And the church is not in charge of the sorting. Only the gathering. The net doesn't get to decide what fish swim into it. We are never smart enough to know whom to keep and whom to throw out. We leave that to the angels. We just treat everyone as a child of God to be drawn near to. Jesus is saying that we need keen eyesight to see where and how God is at work in the world, and we need understanding minds to know what to value and cherish. This kind of wisdom is a gift of God to those who would receive it. But those who would receive it will require effort to receive it. Receiving itself is a spiritual practice, and we have to learn to listen, to understand what is deep and abiding and valuable. And that is hard to do in our time. Christians have no special faculty for this that separates us from the rest of the world. We live in the world, right? And I don't know about you, but day to day, I get caught up in the noise of the news. Anyone else? And I have a hard time hearing the presence of a quiet God who is working in hidden ways, holding the world together while we are busy tearing it apart. I am too prone to doom scrolling on X, or hearting on Instagram, or liking on Facebook, where I can celebrate my virtual friends and demonize my distant enemies and feel great about it. And all that results in that practice is a loss of depth perception about what is important. So how do we learn to do this? I've been reading a novel by Thomas Schlesser titled Mona's Eyes. Mona is a young girl in Paris who has a brief spell of blindness. She recovers her sight, but the prognosis is not good. and she is told that she has to prepare to learn to live without her sight. And so her parents arrange for a weekly doctor visit, and her grandfather volunteers to take her. But instead of going to the doctor, he has a different idea. He takes her to a museum. Every Wednesday, they go to the Louvre or to the Musée d'Orsay, and they look at one painting or sculpture. The grandfather wants to teach Mona how to see while she still can. He wants to teach her what to value, and he shows her how to look and what to look for, so that even when her physical eyes fail her, she will have developed the kind of spiritual perception to live a fully human life. What's our reason for being, church? What do we have to offer the world? I think it's that we become like the master of the house who goes to the treasury and pulls out what is old and new. That is, we don't build a treasury or accumulate wealth ourselves. We know that God has given us everything already around us. It's up to us to see what is old and useful still, what is enduring and valuable to hold on to, and then cherish it and honor it. And that, if you will, is a conservative virtue. But it's also true that we then find what is new and fresh, to be open to what God is bringing to pass among us and embrace that too. This is the progressive impulse that understands that there is always more to learn and that the new is not the enemy of the old, but the gift that change can bring. What if in our Sunday school classes and book clubs and dinner conversations we started pushing each other to grow this way, right? How would that be a gift to the world? It might mean that we would become less anxious in the midst of conflicts at home or in the church or in our country, because we would be looking for what God is trying to birth through this painful labor. It might start with us seeing that our duty is not primarily to solve the immigration problem, as much as to welcome the strangers in our midst as human beings deserving dignity and care. We might stop trying to impose our faith on school children against the will of their parents, and instead become respectful of other religions and curious about what God might be doing as being present and at work in and through them too. Oh, the things that might be possible if only we cultivated the gift of recognition. We live in an age of influencers who make a living out of saying, "Look at me." We live in a country that celebrates what is big and grand and often gaudy. And the church that lives in that culture can often be seduced by it. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A great man is always willing to be little." A great church, too. But are we willing? And so I would ask you, what is your final wish?